Hi folks, today I'm here with one more episode of the Supply Chain Show. Today I'm talking about one of the most interesting topic I have. Because as a supply chain people, I believe we are mostly managing the information to manage the material flow. And with the advent of COVID, what happened is we are working from home and I'm working from home like, I'm working from office and I'm doing equally well. That raised a question, right? That how many of these supply chain functions or jobs can be done remotely? If it can be done remotely, what are the enablers? What are the challenges? What is the impact of that new, let's call it the new era of the supply chain people or the new normal into the cultures of the organization, right? So today what I have as a guest is one of the leading supply chain futurists, Mr. Martin, right? And I've been a great fan of him. He's got one of the leading websites in Europe, Supply Chain Media, a great magazine, Supply Chain Movement, right? So I've been following all the, I think my personal opinion, he is the leading brain, if not the leading brain when it comes to supply chain technology. Welcome, Martin. Thank you for your time. I'm a big fan of yours. Absolutely. The work you're doing, I'm a great fan. And so just for the audience, can you please just briefly introduce yourself, your business model, please?
All right. Yeah, I'm Martijn Lofvers. I'm the chief CEO of Supply Chain Media. That's the company, and also the chief of Supply Chain Movement. I call it Chief Trendwatcher. So that's what we do. We publish it. We publish it in print and online. But basically, next to doing a lot of interviews with supply chain executives, we also create a lot of frameworks. So checklists, mind maps. We have an IT software map that has mapped out all the supply chain software vendors in Europe. And we created an end-to-end supply chain visibility assessment. So we do that together with supply chain professionals, supply chain executives on one hand. In the last 2 months, we do a lot of webinars about supply chain matters. But we do also a lot of research, a lot of surveys among supply chain professionals and executives. Especially in the COVID-19, we have done more research and surveys in the last 5 months than the whole last year. So that's what we're doing. So we kind of pivoted from a traditional publishing company to an analyst kind of company with our own channels.
Very good, very good. Interesting. So with this event of the COVID-19, right? And I think what I want to know is what are the, for example, so I wrote a blog on centralized and decentralized job functions, right? Because I'm a hardcore practical supply chain guy. So of course, if you work in a warehouse, you're a logistics leader, your job cannot be outsourced, right? So if I think about the centralized functions, right? For example, you're a demand planning person or the network analyst or a supply planner. So it doesn't matter what you sit, where you sit right now. So what's your view that what kind of, let's call it supply chain functions which can be done remotely, and then what is the impact of that? So what's your view?
Yeah, a lot of supply chain functions can be done remotely regarding planning, but it's not a thing to say if you can outsource it. That's one thing. So to getting back about centralizing and decentralizing, yes, a lot of companies are forced to let their people work at home, and with Zoom and other applications, it's you can work with that. It's doable. But the question is, is that solid enough? So in a sense, first you have the trust you need among each other, what you do. So you still have to have the trust that you know what the others are doing at home, not in a matter of that you are distrusting people who are working at home, but do you know that they do the right thing in the sense that, is it according to the process? So yes, you can do a lot of stuff and a lot of planning at home, but and there are now new ways to work from home, but to outsource it or to decentralize, that's not a thing. That's a huge step. So yeah, so I see that companies are working a lot of out of home. But we have to discuss where that it will lead to.
Okay. No, but also I've just noticed that it's very difficult to have all the expertise in-house for a company. Even you're a bigger company, it's very difficult to have it, right? So for example, if I want to do a project on supply chain network design, right? Everybody with the, with what happened with China, there's a lot of difficulties in the supply chain, for example. Then is a time to review how your supply chain design look like, right? And one thing you want to start is, what is my what's my current network design? Where are my customers? Where is my center of gravity, right? And how should I move things around? Or make some strategic decisions if you want to make, in terms of locating your warehouse, centralizing your product line, right? Or centralizing your supply base, or, make a decision that where you make versus buy. So it's all started with your supply chain design and network design. And those kind of expertise. So either you have to go and hire a very expensive consultancy, which is going to charge you arms and the length, or there are certain professionals who can do it remotely, right? So again, those kind of let's call it specialized services, and I think you have developed a very interesting, in your website I've seen the SNOP 10 questions, self-assessment stuff. So so my question is this: so right now you think supply chain is not ready to hire individual, that's fine, but what about these smaller companies, maybe in, I don't know, Indonesia, India, wherever? So how about working with them remotely? Do you see it's effective? Or if to make it effective, what we have to do as a supply chain leaders?
I'll get to that question, but first, you are already seeing that there are consultancy firms who are delivering forecasting as a service, or even network design as a service. So also that's changing. You can have a subscription to have an update, a monthly update of your supply chain network. So that's already happening right now. So that's also changing. I know that Chainalytics is delivering this kind of service on a subscription basis. So network design, you get a monthly update. Is my network still the best one? So they have their tools, the expensive tools to do that. So they are also changing that. And now even forecasting as a service, if it's so complex, you can use this kind of subscription that you will provide this data to this consultancy firm on a monthly or weekly basis, and you'll get your forecast. So that these concepts are already happening. So that's changing. To get back to your question, if other areas could develop that, yes, I think they can. But the basic thing is you have to create a model you can use for yourself, for your own business, or you can, service. You can rent it out as a monthly service. So, and you see new kind of software popping up around the world as a layer on top of your ERP systems and all your systems where all your system of record have your transactions. So there is an opportunity to develop these kind of applications on top of that to do that for a company, and maybe to do it as a service.
Interesting. So I think because I was thinking along those lines. I see what are the platforms available. The gig economy is growing on the software side, and I saw this LinkedIn service. They call it Find a Pro, right? So I went there and I see they have marketing people, software people, legal people, financial people, HR mentors, coaches, project managers, all sorts, right? A lot of, basically put it this way, if I see any business, you can see your functions, the typical functions. You have a legal team, finance team, HR team, marketing team, right? Or IT team. So that's a business. Okay. I said, okay, where's my supply chain operations people? And guess what? I could not find them. I could not find procurement and supply chain. So that tells me the two things. With all the knowledge and artificial intelligence that Microsoft or LinkedIn have, they either decided, right, that operations, supply chain, or procurement people cannot be a pro finder, or they have totally missed it. And now I cannot make my mind up. And I think you are the best person to tell me what happened there.
In my mind, in my opinion, supply chain is largely misunderstood. Even with a LinkedIn, they think supply chain is an industry, but that's wrong. You have the logistics industry where you have DHL, DSV, 𝐦𝐸𝐿. That's the logistics industry. You outsource your warehousing in transport and your freight to a 3PL company. So that's the logistics industry. But supply chain is what they say within Unilever. You have commercial and you have supply chain. You have two legs of the business. One is commercial and the other is supply chain. And supply chain is plan, source, make, deliver, service, and return. But even within LinkedIn, they don't understand. So they confuse the industry, logistics, with supply chain. When you look in LinkedIn, logistics and supply chain is considered as an industry. No, yeah, logistics is an industry and supply chain is a business function.
100%.
That's the reason why LinkedIn has missed it. And I already said to LinkedIn 10 years ago, you have missed the most important question within your profile. That is, the question is, who are you reporting to? And if you know that question, you can map out all the companies in the world. You can create mountains of hierarchies and you can relate it to each other. But, you know, maybe of privacy reason, LinkedIn hasn't asked a question to you, who are you reporting to?
Absolutely.
And if they would do that, they could map out the whole business world.
No, that's true. But this one, actually, I get a lot of criticism from a lot of people when I do some webinars and stuff. Why supply chain reports to finance? Why they report to CFO? Why?
They shouldn't. They shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
You know, look at Unilever. Within Unilever, you have a CEO, a CFO, a chief commercial officer, and a chief supply chain officer. Supply chain officer is half of your business. Supply chain is fulfilling the promises to the customer. So what commercial is promising to the customer, supply chain is fulfilling that. And that making plan, source, make, deliver, and return to do that. So you, as you see, as a company, you can consider a company as a human body. And the human body has two legs. One is commercial, the right leg. Another is supply chain, the left leg. And this body walks on two legs, commercial and supply chain. But a lot of people and a lot of companies, especially LinkedIn, they are stupid enough not to see that.
Wow. I mean, 110% agree with you, 110%. And I think the only few companies right now I've noticed, they realize that you can only do so much with innovation, right? You can only do so much with, product innovation or business model innovation. It's not easy. You can only do so much with your commercial strategies, because most of the commercial strategies, they're out there, everybody knows. Where now the differentiation comes to gain competitive advantage is actually differentiating through your supply chain. For me, the best example is Amazon. Nobody can beat them because they are far ahead when it comes to their supply chain design than anybody else. Or
yes and no.
No?
Yes and no.
Okay.
You know, the basic thing is, with most of the companies I see, there's a misalignment between their business strategy, and you have only 3 business strategies: operational excellence, Amazon; product leadership, Apple; customer intimacy, Cisco. 3 business strategies. And with these business strategies, you have to connect this to supply chain. And you have only 6 basic supply chain types. And I've mapped it out in our strategy compass. You can find it. You can find a 2-minute video from me explaining the strategy compass. First, you have to know, what is my business strategy? Operational excellence, product leadership, or customer intimacy. And then you map out what are the supply chains attached to that. 6 supply chain types. And sometimes if you have a big company, you have more than 1 supply chain type. Johnson & Johnson have all the 6 types. But basically, if you know your DNA, and Amazon, the DNA is operational excellence. Jeff Bezos said in the late 90s, we're going to win this battle on the lowest cost for order picking per SKU. That's what he said in the late 90s. Still valid. He can say, we won't win the battle on transportation because everybody can hire DHL. And now he's changing that. But basically, Amazon is just operational excellence. Just Amazon, yes. But Apple, look at Apple and look at Cisco. You have 3 examples, not only Amazon.
That's true. That is true. No, fantastic. I think excellent.
So that's one thing. So there's a misalignment of the concept of business strategy and supply chain strategy. And if you look at these 3 examples, with Apple, they are looking at mainly on product innovation. And operational excellence means process innovation. And customer intimacy means service innovation. And if you don't know what your basic strategy is, you look into all these kind of innovations and you go nuts. And I have a trend compass where I explain how to apply blockchain for product innovation and how to apply blockchain for process innovation. totally different concept. And if you don't know what your way forward is,
I will pick your brain on this. I think we should do a separate episode on this, because blockchain is still one of my topics which I have a very rudimentary information, right? And I would love to know more on this, how blockchain can be used for product innovation or process innovation. So I think we can do this a separate episode if you have a time. I know you're super busy person, but while we're on this topic of the centralized and decentralized information, I know you are doing some enormous and fantastic work in terms of how you are now making the supply chain knowledge bank available and basically disrupting the old school supply chain model of certifications, the spending thousands and thousands of dollars, which actually you spend on your, no criticism to, the big brands of Apex or CPI, MSIPs and all that. I mean, with all the respect for them for doing it, what they're doing for the last few years or decades, in fact. But I personally think that model is obsolete right now, right? The certification model, right? And what you're doing right now with creating, let's call it a knowledge platform as a self-service, and as you mentioned earlier in my conversation, like a Netflix model. And I love to expand that for the audience again, please. That's fantastic what you're doing.
So basically, yeah, you need some education. I have my education in the Netherlands. I'm an industrial engineer. Yeah, I needed that. But now, this whole certification, in the past, people from Unilever asked people to have an Apex certification. Now they don't. So that's not needed anymore as such. You had your basic education, that's fine. But for educating yourself, things are happening so fast the last years and the last month with AI and machine learning. These educational institutes can't follow. So you need a totally different new environment to keep up to speed. And what we saw, we did a survey among supply chain users and executives. They are overwhelmed by content. They don't know where to look for. So you have to filter them. And the only way to filter them is by machine learning. To get filters, what do you want to know? But because, you can say, I have Google. And no, but that's not enough. You have to create your own profile, your personal profile, your personal interest, and based on that in your role, and based on that, you can get content, you get recommendations. So like Netflix. And Netflix, by the way, the recommendations are not so good. It can be even improved. They look too similar, but that will improve. There's a whole academia world only looking at recommendations algorithm. And it's the same being used by Amazon in their web shops. So the web shops of Amazon and the like are fabulous. So the recommendation you get from Amazon are, amazing. Why don't you have this kind of, those are B2C recommendations. Why don't you have B2B recommendations of the topics you want to know more about? Based on your interest, on your role, on your ambitions. And that's why we have developed that. We have developed an engine based on open source with the Elasticsearch. You don't have to tag all the articles. All the words are tagged. So the new technology is available to do a new kind of knowledge management. And so that will change. That's my belief. And we have built it. We are testing it now with multinationals, and they are flabbergasted what we can provide based on our own supply chain content of the last 10 years.
Wow, amazing. But that platform, you can right now you have only your own content, but can you draw external contents as well?
Yes. In the first phase, we're gonna use our own content, but every PDF shape of content we can inject in our engine. So even this engine can, we don't have content about HR or finance, but if a party has all kind of practical, instinct, workable content about finance, you can create a finance knowledge base, and you can, you can kick ass to the whole world. You can have the Netflix for finance. So we are now delivering the Netflix for supply chain, not videos, but content on articles, so letters to read. So our aim is to, just like Netflix, binge reading. We want binge reading about supply chain. That you want to know everything you want to know about blockchain in supply chain or demand planning in SAP.
Right now, you can see few apps which actually trying to deliver a lot of content in like a micro digest that you can finish the topic in 15 minutes. And I think that sort of innovation, I'm sure you can follow. Binge read and consolidate topics. So that would be great. And I think that service which you're creating, it's basically a platform as a service, and that should be accessible to not so big companies. I think that's something.
Oh yes, but you can even have a license for €5 per month per person as an SME. So we want to have. So we are now talking with bigger multinationals of 1,000 licenses within one company. But I can also imagine, to start out, but just like Netflix.
Yeah.
Start out with €5 per person per month, and you'll get all the knowledge you get on your personal profile about blockchain, about SNOP, network design, sustainability, leadership, talent management. And then you will see that there's a new world coming, how to access knowledge.
Amazing. I'm very much looking forward to collaborate on this topic. SCMDOJO, I think this is what we do. We know that's our motto is supply chain knowledge for everyone. And what you're doing right now is definitely right up my street. So looking forward to working with you on this, in fact.
So you getting back to the LinkedIn discussion about the Profinder, there's a need to find supply chain specialists and professionals. That will be still happening. Even regardless of COVID-19, they are still looking for supply chain talents. And there are also all kinds of initiatives going on how to find these talents around the world. Also using simulation gaming to find the talents around the world. Still happening. But, I think that LinkedIn, great tool, great environment. But, is that enough to find a supply chain talent? And that recruiters are using LinkedIn.
No.
But I think no. As a supply chain, director from a manufacturing company, finding a demand planner on LinkedIn, that's a very hard job. And another thing, like finding freelancers. To me, freelancers, they are not committed to companies. They, you hire them and use them. So that's
But you could say this about consultant as well. They're not committed to company. They come here, they just do the analysis and they do their report and they charge a lot of money. And
wait up. They are committed to their customers. Why? They want to sell next projects. So yes, of course they are committed. If they have sold you 100 hours, they want to sell you the next 100 hours. That's how it works. So the partners of consultancy firms, the only job they are doing is selling the next 100 hours, and that's legitimate, but it's totally different than freelancers. They only think, I have to work, and maybe I work for 3 months, and then I can take off 1 or 2 months, but then I have to work again. Is there really commitment? Hardly. So that's the
thing with my experience of working freelancer. They're committed to the task, right? So I think what we are saying here is maybe a task-oriented job can be given to freelancers, but not be any, let's call it, more than task-oriented jobs can be given to them, right? So possible.
But you have mentioned in your blog about demand planners and so on. I'm also looking now at companies that are using new kind of technologies where you don't need demand planners anymore.
Okay.
So the autonomous supply chain will happen. It's already happening. So there is software around that you can automate your demand planning, no-touch supply chain. And but still you have some people who oversee it to manage it. But the real demand planning, as we are doing right now, with a lot of companies will be becoming obsolete. AI and machine learning is replacing that. Will all those people demand plans will lose their job? No, but their job will change because they are looking at input and master data. But the real demand planning themselves, let the engine will do it.
Yeah, and this is. I mean, I think I discussed a few times and discussed earlier with you as well. I'm working 15 in supply chain. I've used all the ERP systems one needs to use, and I find it absolutely archaic, right? With a big multi-billion-dollar company, a lot of planning data goes through. You have to download them. You have to clean it up. You spend 3 weeks in basically cleaning up your data, setting up your minimum order quantity, your safety stock, right? Doing the ABC analysis. You put that back in, and after 4 months' time, this is not valid anyway. and then you have to do it again. It's just ridiculous. For me, the systems right now should be available, should be giving you a predictive insights. It should be giving you actionable item. Like we get a notification from Amazon, you might be interested in that. Why we don't have a system which says, okay, guys, you set up a safety stock of X level based on your history, but you haven't sold any, or it was a new product introduction, etc. Change it. So this.
The whole thing is, I've been around 25 years in this business, and so I know the IT landscape pretty well. The thing is, you have all kind of ERP instances, WMS, TMS, CRM, whatever. So you have a plethora of all transactional systems. So basically, the better companies, they put a data lake on top of that. They extract the needed information from these transaction systems. And on top of this data lake, they plug in the intelligent systems with machine learning that will provide you the knowledge you want. You know, like Henkel is a great example. Henkel Laundry and Home Care, they have created this IT environment. Yes, they have a lot of SAP, but all the planning functionality have taken out of the ERP environment, because, you know, they have a transactional layer, a data lake, and on top of that, they can use all kind of new kind of applications with intelligence. And even these applications can do master data cleansing. You know, so the new world is how to design a better environment based on your transactional systems. And when you have an acquisition, maybe they have a different kind of ERP system.
Yes.
And so but you know, to cover that, some companies try to do it in all one systems in a transactional information environment, but it will take years, and you might never get there. You will sell off stuff, so you have to split out certain entities. You will acquire stuff with their own MRP, ERP, CRM environment. So basically, you have your instances. Leave it alone. Take a data lake layer on top of that, and based on that, you can plug in all kind of new applications. Henkel is even adapting new kind of startups, scale-ups in their environment, and they're rolling it out, and they're creating their whole own visibility environment. Do it yourself. So demand planners can create their own visibility environment themselves.
Wow.
So that's the new world. So, and you don't need to be a bigger company like Henkel or Unilever to get there. These applications are already available with a lot of startups. The only thing is, you have to be aware, okay, what is your base transactional environment? How do we can get data out of it? And how we can connect apps, cooler applications with machine learning, blockchain, whatever. So that's the real challenge. How to create a layer, extracting data from ERP systems, and then connecting new environments, doing cool stuff. So we have analyzed 160 supply chain startups in Europe alone, delivering this kind of cool functionality. The thing is, how can you connect these applications, these new cool startup applications, to your environment? That's the question.
This is where I think integration comes in. So I've been part of, SAP HANA project, and I've seen, and even the new versions of bigger ERP players, if you think about it, right? They are not doing what all the good stuff, the startups you're mentioning, right? Because they simply cannot do, because they're so big, they cannot do. So as you mentioned about this layer concept, it needs to become a normal for most of the supply chain people, that your ERP system, your base database, it's still a database, right? For build a specific applications or for specific use, you have to build your further technology layers to get there, right? Yeah. And that concept, I don't think is very much understood in the industry right now.
Well, the more advanced companies, they understand it, they apply it, and what you see right now, 5 to 10 years ago, the IT department decided what to implement.
Yes.
The more advanced companies, the business will decide.
Yes.
Either commercial or supply chain.
Yes.
And supply chain is half of your business, what I tell, it's your left leg. So supply chain executives, they are deciding what to implement, not IT. Because IT said SAP or Oracle only, unless. No. The better companies have dedicated IT functionality within their supply chain, reporting into the supply chain officer. So, the more agile companies in this world, they have their own expertise on what to implement. Because if you are waiting for the IT department to harmonize your whole ERP environment with SAP for HANA, take ages.
Yeah.
You already lost the game. You will be Kodak.
Kodak. I love the use this. You will be Kodak. Oh, I never heard of this. That's fantastic.
So you have companies harmonizing your ERP environment. They will be Kodak.
You will be Kodak. Okay, so after just Google me. I'm going to use the word "you will be Kodak." I use the terminology dinosaur, but I think this is much better to say "you will be Kodak." That's amazing. Martin, I know. I think I've been talking to you for more than an hour, right? I think the episode will be about less than 30 minutes or something. But it's been fantastic. I appreciate your time. I would like to, whenever you're free, just talk about more topics, because I think that your thought process, your thought leadership is exactly what industry needs. I think this is exactly what we need as a supply chain professionals, right? I think your work needs to be out there, needs to be, I think, shared more, taught more, right? So I think if you have time, I would love to have you more on a few more topics, right? So thank you for your time today. Very much appreciate your sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave your comments below.